Welcome to Pop Culture Retro, which was recently voted the 15th best podcast by the residents of the Golden Years Retirement Community in Boca Raton, Florida. Each show, we'll revisit some of your favorite pop culture memories with insider and outsider perspectives. Now, please help me welcome your hosts, Ike Eisenmann and Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Retro. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Rosen, along with Ike Eisenmann, and today we are thrilled to welcome a real rock and roll legend. His song Quarter to Three is listed on Rolling Stone's 500 songs that shaped rock and roll. He's the author of the book Buy U.S. Bonds, That's My Story. Please help us welcome one of my favorites, Gary U.S. Bonds. Gary, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Well, to start with, a happy anniversary. It was recently, right? 59 years?
Yeah, 59, man. Working on 60 now, huh?
That's incredible. Congratulations. Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulate her, I tell you.
Probably more accurate. Yeah.
I want to say, I read your book, Buy U.S. Bonds, and it is fascinating. I highly recommend everyone getting it. You were born in Florida, where both Ike and I live now, but you grew up in, I'm in South Florida. Ike's around Orlando area.
Yep.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
And you grew up in Norfolk, Virginia, and your mother was a piano teacher?
Yeah, she did. She taught piano a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit down in Norfolk when we got there, you know. She was a great pianist, unlike me.
So you grew up, music was always part of your life from even just growing up?
Yeah, just from her, not from my father.
No?
No. He was a college professor, and the only thing he thought about was books. That was the least of my worries.
Well, when did you first realize you had a talent for singing?
When a girl saw me on the corner singing, and she said, "Boy, you're good." I went, "Oh, all right."
That'll do it, won't it?
This is going to be my life.
Well, about how old were you?
God, I had to be, I don't know, about 13, 14 years old.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I just started. Because my mom had taken me down to the Booker T Theater back then. That was my first concert, I guess you'd call it, to see Bill Moose Jackson and Ivory Joe Hunter. You guys are too young for that, but and we went to see them, and I went, "Wow, this is cool! Look at that! All the lights and the nice shiny suits, and all the girls are screaming." I went, "Wow, that's what I want to do."
Well, who were some of your musical influences that kind of fed your burgeoning career?
Well, back then, my biggest influence back then was Clyde McPhatter.
Oh,
I loved Clyde McPhatter. He was, to me, he was one of the greatest singers of all time, because he could sing those high notes. And for years, I tried to emulate him, but I couldn't, because I couldn't find underwear tight enough to make me get those high notes like he got them. But he was my first one. But then, I fell into like, I think it was the Turbans. I don't know if you remember them. And of course, Sam Cooke was like a big guy later on. Jackie Wilson, of course, was like, I loved him, and his antics, I call antics, but there was his dancing moves on stage, were pretty cool. And, I learned it later, once I got into the business, that all those guys like James Brown and Jackie Wilson learned all their steps and moves from a guy named Joe Tex. Remember Joe Tex?
Yeah, I've heard of Joe Tex.
And he taught those guys all of those moves and stuff. And I went, wow, that's interesting to know, Because, Joe Tex would move, but I never saw him move like that. But he was teaching those guys how to do that. And that was cool. And the moves with James Brown with the what is it, the microphone, you throw it and catch it with the rope. Oh, man.
Were,
I could never do any of that stuff.
were you in any groups? Oh, by the way, I'm curious. Were you in any groups when you were younger as a kid?
Well, yeah, we formed a group in Norfolk, just a neighborhood group called the Turks, which is how we got started, because Frank Guida came by and saw us singing on the corner from where I lived in front of Boone's Market, and recognized that we had some talent. He says, one day, I'm going to open up a studio and I want you guys to come in and record with me. And I went, great, okay. But meanwhile, by the time he got the studio together and it came back to get us, most of the guys had moved out of the neighborhood, and I was the only one there that was still singing. So, hey, lucky for me, I got the part,
What made you? I read that you started singing in a church choir. So how did you go from singing that to wanting to perform rock?
Well, it wasn't. I don't know why they call it me singing in the church choir. I wasn't. I mean, I was religious because my whole family was all Baptists and Methodists at the time. But actually, I sang in the choir only because the preacher there would pay me $5 on Sunday to come and sing.
Well, that's a good incentive.
Yeah, and I'd go in, I'd sing a couple of nice little hymns, and everybody thought I was a little sweet little boy for the neighborhood. I was just trying to collect money so me and the guys could go buy a bottle. So
well, I personally know how to break into the acting profession because that's my background, but I'm always fascinated about how people manage to break into music. So how did you initially, how did you finally get signed?
Well, that was it. This guy, Frank Guida, who said he'd open the studio, came by and he pulled me in. He goes, well, where the rest of the guys? I went, I don't know. They're gone. They don't live here anymore. I'm it. He went, okay, well, you ready to do something? I went, yeah. He took me in and we recorded New Orleans, the first record, and it was a hit. That's how I got in there,
Wow.
So I smuggled my way in.
Wow.
So what's that? New Orleans comes out. So what's that like for like a teenager to hear his song on the radio?
It was strange the first day I heard it, because me and my mom and a couple of guys were sitting on the front porch back, down south. That's what we did. And we had this radio out there, and we just sit there, and mom's in the swing, and me and the guys are like patting each other on the back of the head on the porch. And the radio comes on, the guy says, here's a new one. Jack Holmes, it was a DJ at the time. Here's a new record by a new guy here in town, one of our own from Norfolk, Virginia, a thing called New Orleans, sung by U.S. Bonds. What is that? I didn't know anything about U.S. Bonds because I didn't know he had renamed me. And I went, wow, look at this, man. I've been in business now for about 2 days, and already they've stolen everything from me.
So that was it. So you a manager who changed your name?
He did. He changed it to U.S. Bonds, but I didn't know anything about it, and I hated that name until I got the first check. Then I went, yeah, it's not bad.
So they said, so it's U.S. So it shouldn't. You're known as U.S. Bonds. And so I was reading that they kept your identity a secret.
Yeah.
At the beginning?
Yeah, they kept it. I don't. Well, what had happened? The studio was next door to Card's Delicatessen. Okay. And Mr. Card was a big fan, I guess you could say, of the United States savings bonds and all that it involved. He had a big flag on behind his deli station, and he had a big, gigantic life-size poster of the United States savings bonds. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
And everything about bonds and stuff was in his store, and he sold bonds there. So I think that's where Frank Guida got the idea from, was to let's see if we can take that name make it sound like this guy that we recorded is part of the United States bonds, and maybe it'll sell some records. It worked.
Wow.
But I never sold any bonds.
Yeah. Well, maybe you did and just didn't realize it.
I know, but after a while, a couple of years later, I went, if I'm selling these bonds, how come I don't have one? I would think they would give me at least one, you know.
Right. Yeah.
I had to go buy a $25 bond.
So now I was reading that they didn't want to show who you were at the time. They didn't want to show your face around.
No, when the record came out, it started playing on the well, you know, back then the white stations, the pop stations they call it, you know, and whereas as a black guy, I was supposed to be on the R&B stations.
Wow.
But all the white DJs thought I was a white guy. So we said, well, they said, you know, well, if we show a picture of him, or if he goes on TV, or, you know, or he goes in the public, then everybody's gonna know. So they kept me out of that for months. I mean, when New Orleans came out, I didn't go on tour or anything. I didn't, and then Not Me came out, and I didn't go. When Quarter to Three came out and it started rising on the charts, then everybody went, well, where is this guy? Is there really a guy? You know? So I had to come out. But by then, I was such a mainstay on the pop stations, they couldn't take me off. So I mean, so it kind of worked in my favor, you know. But it was almost 2 years out of the spotlight.
Incredible!
Oh,
wow,
my God!
And you have one story in your book. You just mentioned Sam Cooke, that you said Sam Cooke was responsible for changing the way you were as a performer.
Oh yeah, that was strange. One of my first professional gigs was at the Howard Theater in Washington D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to work with Sam. Sam Cooke was on the show, and Laverne Baker, Ruth Brown. I think B.B. King was on there, and
wow,
and it was a really, you know, at the time, a great show, you know. And so when I would go on stage, you know, all the older guys, Sam Cooke and, you know, and B.B. King and all, they come and watch me, and they would critique me when I got off stage. You know, hey, you did a nice job, but you should do this, you should do that, you know. And next time, raise your hand this way, lift your leg over here, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, okay. And the next gig we had was at the Apollo Theater in New York. Mm-hmm. And I went out on stage at one of the shows, and I came back, and Sam Cooke said, Bonds, what are you doing? I go, I don't know, you know, because I didn't do anything he had told me to do. He said, I told you to do this, and you didn't do it. I told you to do this, you didn't do it. You know, he said, well, next time you do that, you know, do what I tell you, okay? I went out the next show, and I didn't. And when I walked off stage, Sam slapped me so hard, it was almost like Will Smith and
oh no, oh my goodness.
It was one of those kind of slaps.
Wow.
You know, I went, oh my God, I don't want to ever tick him off again. And I didn't. To this day, they can't shut me up now. Now I talk too much.
Not at all, not at all. So you just mentioned Quarter to Three. So when Quarter to Three came out, that was like a huge hit for you. Did that start to change your life afterwards?
Oh yeah, Quarter to Three was a big change. You know, well, I went to #1, so that was like, you know, very few people have had #1 records. Isn't that amazing? Out of all of these major artists and all that, you know, I happen to be one of them. Thank God. But a lot of people come out and don't get there. I mean, a lot of people that you think had a #1 record never had a #1 record.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And little old me slipped through the weeds there for a minute.
It's such a great song. I mean, but you start going on tour and you're still so young and you're traveling with more experienced acts.
Yeah.
Who were some of the groups that you toured with besides Sam Cooke?
Oh God, everybody back then, and especially during the Dick Clark era, did a lot of the Dick Clark shows when they first come out, the Cavalcade of Stars and stuff.
Right.
And most of the acts that I worked with them were white acts. You know, I was out with the Bobby Darrens and the Frankie Avalons and you name them. You know, and I was there. I was the only black guy, and we were working down south. Oh boy, that was a kick. So, so a lot of times when we had to go into the hotels or motels that we were staying in, I couldn't go in the front like they did. I had to stay on the bus, and they would go get a room for me, and then they'd wait, and then I'd come out the back. When they parked the bus in the back, then I'd get out and go in the back and go in my room. You know, nobody knew I was there but them. But it was kind of cool because, you know, I was the only one that could tell Frankie Avalon, hey, go get me a steak sandwich. You know? I was the head honcho all of a sudden, you know.
Oh my God. Well, you mentioned Dick Clark. You made several appearances on American Bandstand. What was he like, and what can you tell us about the time on the show? And did those appearances help catapult your career?
Oh yeah, Dick Clark. To this day, I thank him for that, because if it wasn't really for him, I don't think there would be me. When he even with New Orleans, and even Not Me, that wasn't a major hit for me, but he would play that. In fact, New Orleans was the one song that was on American Bandstand that he played twice in one show.
Oh wow!
Oh,
you know, nobody else did that. He did New Orleans twice in one show. So without him, there probably wouldn't be me. You know, all of a sudden, in New Orleans, which was doing very, very bad, became a top 5 record. You know,
wow!
And it was because of American Bandstand and Dick Clark.
Wow. And you stayed close with Dick Clark to the rest of his life?
Oh yeah, I did. You know, that was my buddy, and even after we got to be together on the road, I was the only one he would share a drink with. Nobody knew he drank, you know. And he would call me up in my room. Hey, Bonds, what are you doing? I go, I'm just sitting there, Dick. Yeah, come on over. Let's have a little something.
That's fantastic, because he's like the epitome of clean cut, for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Oh,
I love that.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was I love Dick Clark. He was a sweetheart, you know.
Well, you had done a movie in the early '60s as well. What was that? What was that movie?
Oh God, yeah. I don't know. They said that was a movie. I have my doubts about it, but it was good. I mean, it came out and we got a lot of recognition for it. I think it was called Trad Dad or Rock Around Rhythm or something. They had a couple of names for it by the time it got out there. But I hear it was a good movie, but the content wasn't that good. The movie wasn't that good. It really
mostly just to hear the band singing and everyone.
Yeah, you know, it was almost like Blues Brothers 2. You know, if it wasn't for the music, you could throw this in the garbage.
Well, you also did a tour of Europe at that time with you had Don Arden, the promoter, Sharon Osbourne's dad. That's correct?
Yeah. I didn't know it then. I didn't know them. But that was good. That was my first time over in Europe with Johnny Burnett And what was the other guy's name? It took 100 pounds of clay. That guy.
Oh, I know exactly. That's right.
I can't think of his name, but him. And yeah, we had a great time. My first time over there, and it was fantastic. And we had some really nice times there.
God, so on this tour, you actually headlined over the Beatles, yes?
No,
No?
oh, they headlined over the. Well, you know what it was. When I came back from Europe, Frank Guida, like I said, was my manager then. Told me that he said, you know, the guys that that backed you up over there while you were in Europe, they're called the Beatles. I don't recall what they were called. All we knew was the band, because when you go over there, they give you a band and they back you up.
Okay.
And then you go and you do your show. They try to learn your songs, you know, and you do them the best you can. And the first week over there, when we got back to London, we fired those guys. Not me, but me, Johnny Burnett, and the other guy. We fired them. They weren't that good. You know? But, you know, to be honest, the reason I say they weren't that good, because rock and roll had just come out too. And it really just come out over there. So they didn't really know what rock and roll was. So they did the best they could. But we didn't like it. So we had another band. And they were worse. So when we got back to London again, we rehired the band again. And they finished the rest of the tour. But they tell me it was the Beatles. I don't think it was the Beatles. I'm pretty sure. Some people tell me now that it wasn't the Beatles. They were called the Fleet Fleckers or Fleckers. Or, I don't know what they were. Okay. You know, but he said they were the Beatles. You know, managers lie like that.
Well, yeah. You think? Well, that's a much better story than we thought it was.
Well, I think it's a better story for you to say that you fired the Beatles. I love that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
No, I doubt if that would have happened, but we thought it had.
Well, what were some of your other memories from that tour that you can share?
Let's see. Wasn't that much? I mean, we did our shows. We stayed in. I didn't like the food. but I did like the people. The people were great. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, the fans over there are, and to this day, they're still the same. When they like you, they like you. They love you. Mm-hmm. They know everything about you. They sit down and learn everything about you, which is kind of weird. But they know your family's names, your cousins, your uncles, and all that. But they love you, you know, and that's kind of cool but weird.
So it's ironic that, you know, I was reading it also from your book that the British invasion then made things difficult for the American acts.
Yeah, it did, huh? Yeah, they did. Yeah, it kind of those guys came along and just pushed us right out of the picture. Got me down into just doing what I used to call the Holiday Inn act. You know, so I was just doing Holiday Inns and Sheratons, and every now and then we get the big gigs like the Hilton. You know. So, but those are good days too. I enjoy those. You know, those are nice.
Well, I've actually, to bring up a sore subject, personally known, an old friend of mine who was a well-known recording artist back in those days, who had bad management, lost a lot of money, which seemed to be, I learned, a little bit more common than one would like to think in the music industry. Was it around this time that you discovered your manager had been cheating you?
No, I didn't know. By the time that I figured out that things weren't going my way, when people would come to me and go, "Well, who's your manager?" I go, Frank Wheeler. Who's your publicist? And, Frank Wheeler. Who takes care of your money? Frank Wheeler. And all of a sudden I went, wait a minute, that sounds weird. So, but by the time I'd looked and that everything was going his way and not mine,
No.
I kind of got it before I nipped it in the bud, as they say, So before it really got bad, I kind of figured it all out, and that worked out good for me.
Oh, well,
it didn't work out good for me later on, because then I had other managers who I didn't know anything about.
Wow.
And they did some strange things to me. Well, I think we as artists, we're more into doing the music. We just want to do our music, and which is bad. This is why I'm so proud of a lot of these rap guys now. They do what they want to do, but they learn the business right away. And I tell a lot of guys that's getting into the business, they say, well, what do I do first? I said, first, you get a lawyer.
Yeah.
Then you figure out what kind of songs you're going to do, And that seemed to, I wish I had known that then.
Wow. There's one part that I read that I couldn't believe, which was fascinating to me, and I could so see it because it's a bizarre show business story. You were on a bill with Joe Frazier and Tiny Tim. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that was weird. Joe Frazier and Tiny Tim. I was in the Catskills.
Oh my God.
And I get there, and we get to the venue, and then they started having an argument about who was gonna headline. And I went, I don't think I want to get in this argument. It looks like a losing situation. Either way I go. All right, guys, you take care of it. Joe Frazier winds up winning the argument, and he becomes the headliner of the show. Okay, I'm going on first, guys. Hope you don't mind. And I did, and I sat back and watched the most amazing things happening on stage that I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, Tiny Tim was Tiny Tim. I mean,
right.
No getting around what Tiny Tim did, and he did Tiny Tim. But Joe Frazier started singing things that had everything to do with boxing. And he changed all the lyrics around to every song that everybody knew, but there were different lyrics. And I'm going, well, what is he talking about? Doing Stand By Me? Why does he want to beat up somebody in Stand By Me?
It sounds more like a modern performance art piece than a musical show. For goodness sakes, that's crazy.
Was amazing. It was amazing. And I mean, God bless his soul. But he really thought he was a great singer. Oh, he was not a great singer. A great boxer, yeah, but not a great singer.
Oh. When did Springsteen come into your life?
That was later on. I think early 70s. Was it early 70s? I think when I was working, as I said, my Holiday Inn act. He came in to see me in a town in Jersey, near where he lived, him and a couple of his friends. And they came in, and I had no idea who he was, at all. And one of the guys came up near the stage while I was on there and said, look, we have a friend of ours out in the audience would like to come up and do some songs with you. Do you mind? I was, wow, no, not at all. Give me a time to get off here and go get a beer. And so he told me his name, and I went, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we want to bring up a young man here. I think you're going to love him. I have no idea. And he's going to be a great guy. He's going to sing some great music for you. You're going to love every song he's going to get. And you're going to have a nice time. How about a big round of applause for my friend and yours now, Bruce Springsteen. And the crowd went, wow. And I went, wow, who is this guy?
Oh my God.
Everybody knew him but me. You know, it was like, yeah. He came up and we had an hour and a half of the most fantastic time I've had a long time at that time. You know, and we just sang together, joked together, and did some songs. And we became friends that evening. And I think we're still friends. I hope we are. Maybe not after this show, but.
So that's when did you decide to collaborate on an album together?
Well, he called me up one day when he was recording in New York. And he says, Bon, I'm down here I'm here in New York City, and we're doing this song. He said, man, it sounds so much like you. He says, I'd like for you to come and listen to this and see if you want to do this song, man. So I went, okay. And at the time I was in Brooklyn, living in Brooklyn. I just got married to my wife. And so I went in and he started playing this song. It was a great song, you know. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it was on the album, the first song. Dedication.
Yeah.
It was on the Dedication album, and it was Dedication, the song itself. And I went, yeah, that sounds like some 2:45 kind of stuff. So he says, well, let's do it. And I'm in there with the E Street Band, and we just rocked it out. And we got through, and he went, man, this is pretty good. We ought to do some more of this stuff. And I went, okay. And that's how we got to do the Dedication album. We did it all in less than a month.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
This little girl is one of my favorites, and I still play the hell out of that song.
Yeah.
So how did it feel after like all those years? Then all of a sudden you have another big hit climbing the charts.
I know. I'm looking at that and I'm going, wow, look at this, man. Yeah, I've been an oldie but a goodie twice. No, that was great. And he actually wrote that song right here at the house here.
Wow.
And so we got the piano it was downstairs. It's in the den now. And it's kind of a little shaky. And my wife wants to get rid of it. I said, you can't get rid of it. Bruce Springsteen wrote the song on it.
Oh my gosh.
That's true. Yes.
He goes, what do you want to do? I said, I want to sell it. Well, that hasn't happened yet. So. Yeah, it hasn't been sold, and she's still ticked off.
Well, it had to feel great that knowing that these major stars idolized you.
Yeah, that it really is. I mean, no, I'm very pleased that we have a good time together. And Bruce he's such a sweetheart. He really is a nice guy, you know. And every time when I get a chance to see him, you know, it's always a pleasure to sit and talk with him because he has some amazing stories himself. You know?
Sure.
So.
But you knew Clarence Clemons beforehand?
No, that's what I was saying. I didn't really know him. I knew of him, you know, because we were from the same area.
Right.
But I didn't really get a chance to really get to meet him until you know I met Bruce, and then we met up at the studio, and then he kind of said something about, do you remember when you look familiar? Because yeah, well, I'm from your area. I went, oh, okay. All right. So you're one of the crooks too, huh?
Well, speaking of Clarence, I mean, you filmed, and you mentioned it before, you filmed Blues Brothers 2000, and performed New Orleans with Clarence and Bo Diddley, Lou Rawls, Billy Preston, and many others.
Yeah.
That clip is just amazing. How much fun was that to make?
That was a lot of fun. I mean, man, just the trailers in the back.
Mhm.
Oh, that was that was weird. There was a party going on every 15 minutes back there, man.
Oh, I have actually heard, a few stories back in the day about those two, and
we had so everybody had. I mean, we knew each other, most of us, for 100 years, you know. So we had stories up the gazoo, you know, that we talked about. And we talked all the women we had known and how pretty they were. Yeah, they may look that good now, but they didn't look that good then. That was the whiskey talking again.
Oh my gosh. Well, what made you finally decide to write your memoir, Buy U.S. Bonds? That's my story.
Well, we were in Europe, and a friend of mine from here in New York, Steve Cooper, who helped me write the book. He has a few bucks here and there. Yeah. So he decided he was going to go to Europe with us, and I went, okay. So he traveled the whole tour with us, stayed in every suite. I mentioned that because when I was in my little room, Steve had a suite. Yeah. And so finally, after about a couple of weeks into the tour, he came out, he says, "Bonds, I want you to read some of this." I go, "What is that?" And he had written up a little thing that from what we were doing on tour, you know, like a little novel. And I read it and I went, "Wow, this is really good, Steve." He goes, "Yeah, you know, I would like to be a writer one day." And I go, "Why? You know, how much more money do you need?" And he says, no. He says, "I'd like to do your book." And I went, "Oh," because I'd always thought about doing something like that, but I didn't know how to do that, you know. I didn't know how to get started on writing a book. And I went, "Okay, let's go for it, man. Let's go. You know how to do it. I think you can do it." And he was absolutely phenomenal with this book. Pain in the butt, because he'd come to the house every day, and let me know about this. Let me know about this. Let me know about this. Tell me what happened. What happened over there? Oh my God, Steve, leave me alone. You know. But he got me through it, and there it is. That's my story.
When you were writing it, did anything come back to you that you might have forgotten about otherwise?
Yeah, a lot of things. A lot of things I didn't want anybody to know, but we did it anyway. You know, it was a lot of good, and we didn't do anything bad. Mm-hmm. I said, for one thing, I don't want to write these other books like everybody else did. I don't want to talk about all the
trashing anyone, right?
The sex acts and all this other stuff, which there were none. And I had to do drinking and all that. I don't want to talk about it. I just want to talk about the fun times and me and my wife and my kid, you know, and that's it. And he went, "Okay, let's do it." And that's what we talked about. It was some hard times that we had, you know, even living in Norfolk, you know, at the time. There was always ups, a lot of downs, you know, but a few good ups, and I'm glad of that.
No, you overcame a lot. Your book was fascinating. I said, one of the things that stuck out to me in your book is your friendship with which you mentioned in the book several times with Benny King. And he was such a fantastic performer. I saw him in concert actually too. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with him?
Benny and I, we talked oh God, we used to talk at least once a week. He lived in Jersey, but he was always busy, you know. But we'd always stay together. It was me and Benny, and do you remember Chuck Jackson?
Yeah, I know.
Any day now,
Mhm.
you know, I don't want to cry. The three of us would have a conference call every week, at least once a week, and we just talk and just tell, as we say, tell our lies, you know, and keep living life, and tell us, you know, what we were doing that week, and what we were going to do the next week, and that was it. It was just always, you know, we weren't handsy kind of friends. We were talky kind of friends, you know,
Mhm.
and that was cool. That was cool. And I
Yeah.
got him to come over with me uh, the last part of his life, and we did the tour back in England again, and him and I did it over there.
Hmm.
He didn't want to do it. That was right after he had his heart attack, and he had a little stroke kind of thing.
Mhm.
So he was a little shaky. He didn't want to go because he didn't think he could carry it, you know. And I talked him into it, and he did a great job. I mean, he got over there, and about 3 or 4 days into this whole thing, it all kind of got back together for him, you know. And he was rocking and rolling with it, you know. And we had a great tour. We had a great tour over there, and I'm gonna miss him. He's
Yeah.
a good friend.
Yeah. Sorry about him. But
Yeah,
you had one part of your book also about, yeah, about Ricky Nelson in Madison Square Garden, how he didn't like going back and replaying his older hits. Could you
yeah.
describe what happened that day?
Well, yeah, I think everybody talked about that, but I was there for that, and I couldn't understand why, you know, and even backstage, I mean, all the other acts are going like, you know, well, he's doing these songs. Why is he doing these songs? I go, well, why shouldn't he do these songs? You know, everybody, you know, well, these guys, they had all settled in their ways. I think I was one of the young guys that I understood that, you know, I want to do something different. I don't want to do the same thing all the time. I mean, I got to do it. I mean, 2:45, I got to do that.
Hmm.
But can I do something else with it? You know, why do I have to just do that and then leave? You know, and look, he proved them wrong. He proved them wrong, and I'm glad he did. It made me feel good later, even though I had nobody to brag to for it. But in my mind, I knew I told you guys.
Well, getting back to Benny King, you said that he had talked about playing the older hits. What was that? How did he feel about it?
Yeah, he liked that too, because Benny was a creative guy, you know, he was always a creative. And in fact, I wrote a song for him, and I understood he turned it down. And in fact, we're putting the song out, was it next week? I think the next 2 weeks, you know. And
Really?
he turned it down, and I couldn't understand why did Benny turn my song down. And then I realized that Benny's a songwriter himself. Why would he want to do my song? He would want to do his song,
Right.
you know. And I'm still sad he turned it down, because I think once you hear it, you're gonna go, that would have been a great song for Benny.
Oh, I
But
can't wait. I'm looking forward.
yeah, it's called 1950s, caught in the 1950s kind of mood.
I will be on the lookout. Oh, I can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Well, you kind of touched on it already, but how do you feel about playing your hits?
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'm a good time guy, you know, and when I go out there to perform, it's not a task for me. That's my fun time. You know, people go bowling and go golfing and swimming and all that. I go performing. And that's when I can sit down, and that's my martini.
Now, you've been such a big influence to many other performers. How do you reflect upon your legacy in rock and roll now?
I hope I have one.
Oh, you do.
Oh, definitely.
I hope I have one. I hope I'm capable enough to somebody can look at it and go, I want to be just like him. God forbid. But and that would be a good thing to see that. I like to have that on the mantle when my daughter comes along and goes, yeah, that guy is just like my dad. You know?
Do you still keep in touch with other performers?
Oh yeah, we still do. I do a lot of them. In fact, most of them are girls now. All of a sudden, I wind up talking to like Shirley Alston a lot. I talk to Lala Brooks, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I talk to her a lot. I don't know what happened to Chuck Jackson. All of a sudden, he left New York and moved to Atlanta. Excuse me, I got the sniffles there for some reason. I'm in New York. You might have anything here, but but all of a sudden I lost contact with him. I hope he's okay. But it's been about 3 weeks now that I haven't heard from him, and I'm a little concerned, you know. But yeah, part of the guys I talk to, Steve Van Zandt, I talk to a lot.
Oh well, okay.
You know, and I've known Steve. God, I knew him when he was the guitar player for the Dovels back in the day. You know, and all of a sudden, here's me and Steve again, which is kind of cool, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, who do you like in today's music?
I like, you know, I don't get a chance to listen to a lot of today's music, but I still like Bruno Mars. I like that little guy. You know.
Yeah.
I watch it.
Well, his song popped into my head today for some strange reason, and that's probably why it was.
Yeah. I just like the way he carries himself, you know. He's a pretty good, and there are a lot of good guys out here. There really are a lot of great musicians out here still, and there always will be, you know. You know, as long as they got good managers.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
Also, is golf still a passion of yours? Because I know you've done a lot of celebrity golf tournaments.
Yeah, I still play golf. Well, I don't call it playing golf now. I just call it hitting the golf ball now because I can't play like I used to.
That's right.
I'm getting too old to hit the little ball now. The little ball is starting to hit me.
What do you have planned next?
Like I said, we've been on this COVID trip here for what, last 2 years, and we got. It's really been kind of good for me because I'm up 4 albums now.
Oh wow!
That we've done. Now, what we did, the one we put out now, which is we don't have a name for it yet, but my daughter said we might call it Souvenirs. Oh, that's cool. And I got one we're gonna do that's called Have Party, We'll Travel, which is a lot of songs that I did that I used to like, mixed in with a lot of new songs, rock and roll kind of songs that my style today. And that's pretty cool. And then we have I got a blues album that we're doing, which is called Baby Blues, which is every song is the title of Baby. You know, baby, what you want, you know, songs like that. From way back in the day that my mom taught me, you know. So we're gonna, and what we do is I have the studio here in the house, and my guys got the studio hookups in their homes, my band. And what we do, I send them ideas of what I want to do, and they give it back to me, and I mix it all together here at my house, you know. And we never see each other.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
For 2 years, we never saw each other, you know, except for like this, you know. and we record it. And then my wife and my daughter, my backup singers. So I got backup right here. So, okay, it sounds phenomenal. I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's something for me to do, you know. I can go downstairs in the studio in my underwear if I want. Because it's only me and my family, and have a good time by myself. And it's great.
That's good. Oh, we're looking forward to that. Any plans to tour Florida?
I hope so. I hope so. 'Cause I miss Florida a lot. I miss everything a lot now these days. I really do. But yeah, I plan to come down there when we get this over with. In fact, we were thinking about buying a condo down in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, that's near me. That's great.
Is it? Yeah, we're going to buy a condo down there because all my friends are there. You know, my friend, my golfing buddy, Mike. I don't know if you know Mike Peters from the owns the Topless joints down there.
I never heard of such places.
Yes, I know. But he's a really good friend of mine from way back. But he's got all the owns a bunch of the was it solid golds, pure platinum, all that. And
Right.
and so I go down there and play golf with him. I don't hang out at the club.
Of course not.
Well, I hope you do. I hope you do manage to tour here. And so if you do, we're going to come see you. So
Oh, please do, man. I'd love to have you guys down. You're a lot of fun.
thank you, Gary. It's been an absolute pleasure. We thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. And, you know, big fans for a long time. And it was such a pleasure to get to talk to you.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, guys. Thank you so much, Jonathan and Ike.
Yes, thank you, sir.
And thank you, Lori. Thank you, Lori, for setting this up.
Yeah, she left us a long time.
Well, again, this has been Pop Culture Retro. I'm Jonathan Rosen, along with Ike Eisenmann, and a special thanks to Gary U.S. Bonds. And please subscribe.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Retro, where no one was hurt during the making of this podcast.